I am Ava, 34 years old, and 10 minutes ago, I realized I have been paying for my own children's abuse. I stood frozen in the hallway of my parents' house, clutching a grocery bag filled with the expensive organic steaks they asked me to buy. From the kitchen, I heard my mother's voice. It was not the sweet, grandmotherly tone she uses when she asks me for a loan. It was cold, clinical. Jessica's kids eat at the table. Ava's kids can sit on the floor in the pantry. If they are hungry, there are some bread crusts left over from breakfast. They do not need the prime cuts. They are used to scraps. My father laughed, a low, agreeing rumble. They need to learn their place early, Martha. Mixed blood doesn't sit at the head of the table. I felt the blood drain from my face. My hands shook so hard the plastic bag rustled. But the sound was drowned out by the clattering of silverware. My sister Jessica, the golden child, the one who has never paid a bill in her life, chimed in. Exactly. Besides, Ava can afford to buy them McDonald's later. Let my kids enjoy the good food. They deserve it more. I did not storm in. I did not scream. I did not flip the table. I carefully set the bag of steaks down on the entryway rug. I turned around, I walked out the door, and I sat in my car. That was the moment the daughter they knew died. And the woman who would ruin them was born. Let me back up. You need to understand the architecture of this betrayal. For the last 7 years, I have been the financial spine of this family. I work as a senior project manager at a major tech firm in Seattle. I make good money. Really good money. And because I was raised with that toxic, old-school loyalty that says, family comes first, I shared it. My husband, Marcus, is a Black man. He is a successful architect, kind, patient, and the love of my life. Together, we built a life that looked perfect on Instagram, but beneath the surface, I was paying a tolerance tax to my family. When my dad needed a new truck because his back hurt, I paid the down payment, $15,000. When my mom wanted to refresh the house, I covered the renovation costs, $22,000. When Jessica got divorced and needed a fresh start, I paid her rent for 6 months, $12,000. I told myself I was being a good daughter. I told Marcus they were just old-fashioned and needed time to adjust to our interracial marriage. I ignored the microaggressions. Scenes like how they always forgot to frame photos of my children, Leo and Maya, while Jessica's kids, Connor and Deform, had a shrine on the mantle. Like how they criticized Maya's hair texture but praised Connor's angelic blonde curls. I swallowed it all. I thought if I paid enough, if I was successful enough, I could buy their respect. I could buy my children a seat at the table. I was wrong. I was just funding the people who hated us. Living in America in 2025 is expensive. Inflation is crushing everyone. My parents are retired with zero savings. Jessica works part-time as a lifestyle coach, which is code for unemployed. They survive because I exist. They live in a 4-bedroom house in a nice suburb solely because I pay the property taxes and the insurance. And yet, for my children were eating bread crusts on the floor. I sat in my Tesla staring at the front door of the house I practically owned. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Ava, are you here yet? The steaks need to go on the grill. The boys are hungry. The audacity was breathtaking. They were waiting for the meat I bought to feed the children they favored while planning to feed my children garbage. I looked at the rearview mirror. My eyes were dry. Crying is for victims. I am not a victim anymore. I am the bank, and the bank is closing. I picked up my phone and typed a reply. Work emergency, had to leave. Sorry. Then I drove home to Marcus. When I walked into our house, Marcus was in the living room, building a Lego castle with Leo and Maya. The scene was so pure, so full of genuine love that it almost broke me. Marcus looked up and saw my face and immediately stood up. Ava, what's wrong? I waited until later that night after the kids were asleep. I poured us both a glass of wine. I sat Marcus down. I told him everything, every word, the scraps, the mixed blood comment, the laughter. I watched my husband's face turn from concern to a dark, quiet fury. Marcus is a calm man. He is logical. But hearing that his children were being treated like stray dogs by their own grandparents, that flipped a switch. I want to go over there, Marcus said, his voice dangerously low. Right now. No, I said, placing a hand on his chest. If you go over there and scream, they will play the victim. They will say we are overreacting. They will gaslight us. They will say it was a joke and nothing will change. So what do? He asked. We can't let them near the kids again. We won't, I replied. But cutting them off isn't enough. They have lived off my labor for a decade, while looking down on the very people who put food in their mouths. They need to understand the cost of their hatred. I don't want to just leave, Marcus. I want to foreclose on their lifestyle. I opened my laptop. I am going to conduct an audit, I said. I want to know exactly how much money I control in that house. For the next 4 hours, we dug through bank statements, shared accounts, and credit card histories. The numbers were staggering. I was paying the cell phone bill for the entire family plan, $400 a month. I was paying the car insurance for my dad and Jessica, $350 a month. I was the guarantor on the home equity line of credit my parents took out last year to pay off gambling debts I wasn't supposed to know about. My Netflix, Hulu, Prime, and Spotify passwords were logged in on every device in their house. But the biggest weapon was the house itself. 3 years ago, my parents refinanced. Because their credit score was in the low 500s, they couldn't qualify. I co-signed. Not just as a guarantor, but as a co-owner on the deed to secure the loan. Legally, I own 50% of that house, but financially, I pay 100% of the mortgage because Dad's pension is tight this month has been the excuse for 36 months straight. Oh my God, Marcus whispered, looking at the spreadsheet I had created. You are literally keeping them alive. Yes, I said, and tomorrow, I'm pulling the plug. I slept like a baby that night. The next morning, I took the day off work. I didn't go to my parents' house. I went to a lawyer. I needed to know how to extract myself cleanly, or better yet, how to force a sale. The lawyer, a sharp woman named Sarah, looked at the deed and the payment history. You are in a strong position, she said. This is a partition action. Since you are paying the mortgage and they are contributing nothing, we can force the sale of the home to recoup your equity. But it will take time. They will be notified. I don't want to notify them with a letter yet, I said. I want them to feel it first. Step 1, the digital blackout. I logged into my Verizon account. I selected remove line for my mother, my father, and Jessica. Effective immediately. I logged into every streaming service. Sign out of all devices. Changed password. I logged into the Amazon Prime family account. Removed them. Step 2, the credit freeze. I called the credit card company where Jessica was an authorized user on my Platinum card, the card she used for her essential groceries, which were mostly wine and designer clothes. I lost my card, I told the operator. Please cancel it immediately and issue a new one with a new number, and remove all authorized users. Certainly, ma'am, that is done. Step 3, the mortgage. This was the big one. I couldn't just stop paying without hurting my own credit, but I could change how it was paid. I had set up an auto draft from my account to cover the mortgage every first of the month. I canceled it. Then I drafted a formal legal letter, not from a lawyer, but from me. Dear Mom and Dad, due to unforeseen changes in my financial allocation, I can no longer cover the mortgage payments effective immediately. The payment of $3,200 is due on the 1st. Please make arrangements. I didn't send it yet. I wanted to wait for the chaos to start. It didn't take long. At 10:45 in the morning, my phone rang. It was Jessica. I let it go to voicemail. At 10:48, a text. Hey, is the Netflix down? I'm trying to show the kids a movie and it says wrong password. I ignored it. At 11:15, my dad called. Voicemail. Text. Ava, my card got declined at the gas station. It was embarrassing. Did you forget to pay the bill? Call me. I sat in my home office drinking coffee, watching the notifications roll in like a dopamine hit. They were panicked. Not because they were worried about me, but because the tap had run dry. They had no idea that the scraps they were about to eat were going to be a lot worse than bread crusts. But I wasn't done. I needed to confront them, not with anger, but with the cold, hard reality of their prejudice. I wanted to see their faces when they realized the mixed blood grandkids held the deed to their roof. I decided to go over there for dinner that night. I told Marcus to stay home with the kids. This was a battle for me alone. I stopped at the store on the way. I bought a single loaf of cheap white bread, nothing else. When I pulled into the driveway, Jessica's car was there. Good. The whole coven was assembled. I walked in. The atmosphere was tense. They were all in the living room, phones in hand, looking frustrated. When they saw me, they pounced. Ava, Mom shouted. Where have you been? Do you know what kind of day we have had? The internet is weird, the TV isn't working, and your father is stuck at a gas station waiting for me to bring him cash because your card didn't work. And you didn't bring the steaks yesterday, Jessica added, crossing her arms. We had to order pizza. I stood in the center of the room, still wearing my coat. I looked at them, really looked at them. They looked small, petty, parasitic. I brought dinner, I said calmly. I reached into my bag and pulled out the loaf of cheap, squishy white bread. I tossed it onto the coffee table. It landed with a soft thud. What is this? Dad asked, walking in from the kitchen, looking flushed. That, I said, pointing to the bread, is for you. It's the scraps. I figured since you think leftovers are good enough for my children, they are certainly good enough for the people who are currently living in my house for free. The room went dead silent. The air pressure dropped. What did you say? Mom whispered. I heard you, I said, keeping my voice steady, conversational even. Yesterday, I was in the hall. I heard you tell Jessica that my kids, my mixed children, can eat on the floor, that they need to learn their place. Jessica turned pale. Mom opened her mouth to speak, likely a lie, but I cut her off. What? Don't, I said sharply. Do not insult my intelligence. You said it. You laughed about it. You bonded over it. Ava, you are overreacting, Dad stammered, trying to regain authority. It was just a joke. You know we love the kids. We were just saying that structurally. Structurally? I laughed, a cold, dry sound. Let's talk about structure, Dad. The structure of this family is simple. I pay for everything. You consume everything. And in return, you abuse my children. We do not abuse them, Mom cried, tears instantly springing to her eyes. The weaponized tears of a narcissist. We love them. We just… Cultural differences? Racism, I corrected. It is called racism, and I am done subsidizing it. I took a step closer. I canceled the phone lines. I canceled the streaming services. I canceled the credit cards. You what? Jessica gasped. But I need that phone for my business. Get a job, I said. A real one, and buy your own phone. Ava, be reasonable, Dad said, his face reddening. You can't just cut us off. We have agreements. The mortgage? Ah, yes, the mortgage. I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Since you are the patriarch, the head of the household who believes in knowing one's place, I am sure you can handle the mortgage payment on the first. It is $3,200. You know we don't have that, Dad shouted. Then you better start packing, I said, because I am not paying another cent for a house where my children are treated like dogs. I turned to leave. You have 30 days, I said over my shoulder. If the mortgage isn't paid, the bank takes the house. Or I force a sale. Either way, the free ride is over. I walked out. I expected to feel guilty. I expected to feel sad. But as I walked back to my car, listening to them screaming my name from the porch, I felt only one thing. Hunger. Not for food, but for the absolute destruction of their entitlement. This was just the opening shot. They thought this was about money. Number one, I had recorded the entire conversation on my phone in my pocket, and I knew exactly who needed to hear it next. The silence lasted exactly 12 hours. Narcissists follow a predictable script. When they lose control, they do not reflect. They do not apologize. They recruit. By 10 o'clock the next morning, my phone was vibrating off the desk at my office. It wasn't my parents, it was the flying monkeys, the enablers and extended family members recruited to do their dirty work. First, it was Aunt Linda. Ava, I just got off the phone with your mother. She is sobbing. She says you came over, threw food at her, and threatened to make them homeless. How could you be so cruel to the people who raised you? Then, it was the pastor of their church. Ava, daughter, we need to talk about honoring thy father and mother. Financial stress is temporal, but family is eternal. I didn't respond. I didn't defend myself. In the game of cold revenge, our silence is the loudest weapon you have. Every time you explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you, you lose power. I simply forwarded the audio file I had recorded the night before to Marcus. Subject line, evidence for the restraining order. Marcus texted back 1 minute later, I'm calling the security company. We are getting cameras installed today, and I'm blocking their numbers on the kids' iPads. Good man. Day 4 of the starvation siege. I checked my credit card alerts. Jessica had tried to use the unauthorized card at a liquor store. Declined. Then at a nail salon. Declined. Then, hilariously, at an ATM. Declined. I watched the notifications pop up on my screen like a scoreboard. She was trying to maintain a champagne lifestyle on a tap water budget. But I knew they wouldn't go down quietly. So the extinction burst was coming. That is the term psychologists use for the massive temper tantrum a manipulator throws right before they realize they have truly lost. It happened on a Tuesday. I was in a meeting with my VP when my phone buzzed with an emergency override notification. It was my father. Voice message. Ava, it's your mother. Her chest. She collapsed. We are at the emergency room. The doctors say it's stress-induced heart failure. I hope you're happy. You did this. Get down here now and bring your credit card for the copay. My stomach dropped. For a split second, the old Ava, the dutiful, guilty daughter, wanted to rush to the hospital. But the new Ava paused. I remembered the cancer scare of 2019 that turned out to be a benign cyst, which she milked for a Caribbean cruise. Or I remembered the broken hip that was just a bruise. I did not leave work. Instead, I called the hospital switchboard. I am checking on a patient, Martha Higgins. One moment, the receptionist said, I show a Martha Higgins in the waiting room. She has been triaged for, let me see, anxiety and acid reflux. She is currently waiting to be discharged. Acid reflux, I repeated. Yes, ma'am. She is demanding a private room, but she is stable. I hung up. They staged a heart attack to get my credit card number. That was it. The last shred of guilt evaporated. I drove to the hospital, but I didn't go inside to hold her hand. I waited in the parking lot. 20 minutes later, I saw them walk out. Mom looked perfectly fine, walking briskly to the car, arguing with Jessica. Dad was trailing behind, looking at his phone. As I rolled down my window as they walked past. Acid reflux is painful, I called out. Maybe cut back on the spicy food and the lies. They froze. Mom's face went from tragic victim to caught criminal in a nanosecond. Ava, she screeched. You heartless B-word. I could have died. But you didn't, I said, and the doctors know it, and now, so do I. We need money for the pharmacy, Dad yelled, abandoning the charade. The copay was $200. We had to use the grocery money. Then I guess you are fasting this week, I said. By the way, I spoke to the lawyer today. The partition action has been filed. You will get the papers on Friday. You might want to start selling that furniture you love so much. Legal fees are expensive. I drove off before they could scream another word. But the real war wasn't in the parking lot. It was online. That night, Jessica went nuclear. She posted a 2,000-word essay on Facebook, a masterpiece of fiction. Title, Abandoned by My Own Sister, How Wealth Changes People. She claimed I had stolen the house from our parents. She claimed I hated them because they were poor. She claimed I was brainwashed by my husband. She even insinuated that Marcus was isolating me from my loving family. The comment section was a firing squad. Wow, money really is the root of all evil. I never liked her anyway. Stay strong, Jess. How can a daughter let her parents starve? Disgusting. Marcus saw the post and threw his phone on the couch. We have to report this. This is defamation. She is attacking my character too. No, I said, sipping my tea. I was surprisingly calm. Let it ride. What? Ava, everyone in our hometown is reading this. Your high school friends, our old neighbors. Exactly, I said. Let them dig the hole deeper. I want everyone to see it. I want the whole world to watch them play the victim. Why? Because, I said, pulling up my laptop. When I drop the truth, I want the audience to be seated. I wasn't going to reply with a comment. I was going to reply with a legal document. But first, I needed to secure the perimeter. The next day, I went to the bank that held the mortgage. I asked to speak to the branch manager. I laid out the situation. I am the primary borrower, I said. I am stopping payments. I want to know the foreclosure timeline. The manager, a gray-haired man named Mr. Henderson, looked concerned. Mrs. Davis, if you stop paying, your credit score will take a hit. It will damage you too. I have an 820 credit score, I said. I can take a 50-point hit. They have a 500 score. They have nowhere to go. I am willing to burn my own credit for 3 months if it means getting them out of my life. Start the process. Mr. Henderson looked at me with a mix of fear and respect. Very well. The first notice of default goes out after 30 days missed payment. Send it to the house, I said. Address it to all occupants. 3 weeks passed. The starvation siege was working. I heard through the grapevine that Jessica had to sell her designer handbags on Poshmark. Dad had to actually list his truck for sale. The text stopped being aggressive and started being pathetic. Ava, the electricity bill is due, please. It's getting cold. Ava, the grandkids miss you. I didn't break. But then they crossed the final line. The line you never cross. I got a call from the school principal. Mrs. Davis, I'm calling because your mother, Martha, is here. She is trying to pick up Leo and Maya. My blood turned to ice. My children are on a strict list, I said, my voice shaking with rage. Only Marcus and I can pick them up. Yes, we see that, the principal said. But she is making a scene. She is claiming that you are mentally unstable and that she has emergency custody. She has a notarized letter. A forged letter. Do not let her near them, I commanded. I am calling the police. I am 3 minutes away. I drove like a maniac. I didn't care about speed limits. They tried to kidnap my children. They tried to take my babies to use them as leverage, to hold them hostage until I opened the wallet again. When I screeched into the school parking lot, 2 police cruisers were already there. Mom was screaming at an officer. I am their grandmother. I have rights. She is unfit. She is starving us. I jumped out of the car. I walked straight up to the officer. I am the mother, I said. These are my children. That woman is trespassing and attempting to kidnap them. She has a letter, the officer said, holding up a crumpled piece of paper. I snatched it. It was a joke. A typed letter signed by Ava Davis, with a signature that looked nothing like mine. It was clearly Jessica's handwriting. This is a forgery, I said, and I can prove it. I looked at my mother. She looked wild, desperate. The mask had completely fallen off. She didn't look like a grandmother. She looked like an addict whose supply had been cut off. You won't let us see them, she screamed, lunging at me. The officer held her back. We need money, Ava. We are drowning. How can you be so selfish? You tried to steal my children because you need cash? I asked, loud enough for the gathering crowd of parents to hear. You are done. I turned to the officer. I want to press charges for attempted kidnapping and forgery, and I want a restraining order filed immediately. I have digital evidence of financial extortion and threats on my phone. Mom went pale. You wouldn't put your own mother in jail. I looked her dead in the eye. You aren't my mother anymore, I said. You are just a tenant who is behind on rent, and you are about to be evicted. The police escorted her off the property. She wasn't arrested that day. These things take time, but the report was filed. The paper trail was official. The grandparents' rights threat was dead. You don't get custody when you have a police report for attempted kidnapping, but I knew this wasn't the end. The foreclosure notice would arrive in 2 days, and Jessica, the mastermind behind the forgery, was still safe in the house, hiding behind her computer screen. I needed to flush her out. I needed to hit Jessica where it hurt the most, her vanity, her social status. Jessica was hosting a charity gala planning meeting at the house on Saturday. She had convinced a group of local wealthy women that she was a philanthropist. She was using my house to host them, serving them tea and pretending she owned the place. I checked my calendar. Saturday, 2 p.m., perfect. I wasn't just going to serve them foreclosure papers. I was going to crash the party. Saturday arrived with a bright, mocking sunshine. I parked my car down the street and watched. The driveway was packed with Range Rovers and Mercedes. Jessica had really pulled out all the stops. She was trying to court the old money crowd of our town, desperate to secure a donation for her fake nonprofit so she could skim a salary off the top. I didn't go alone. I brought 2 people with me. One was a frantic real estate agent named Brenda, who I had hired that morning with a very specific instruction. I want to list the house today, aggressively. The other was a process server, a large man named Mike. At 2:15, we walked up the driveway. Through the bay window, I saw Jessica holding a crystal champagne flute, my crystal flute, holding court in the center of the living room. She looked radiant. She looked rich. She looked safe. I opened the front door. I didn't knock. It is my house, after all. The chatter died down instantly as I walked in, flanked by Brenda with her bright red blazer and Mike with his clipboard. Jessica froze. Her eyes darted to the guests, then to me. Ava, she said, her voice pitching up 2 octaves into a fake sweet register. What a surprise. We were just discussing the charity. Everyone, this is my sister, Ava. She's a little overwhelmed lately. She was trying to frame me as the crazy one before I even opened my mouth. Smart, but not smart enough. I'm not overwhelmed, Jessica, I said, my voice calm, projecting clearly to the back of the room. I'm just a landlord conducting business. A hush fell over the room. The wealthy ladies exchanged glances. Landlord? One of them asked. Yes, I said, Aina stepping further into the room. I apologize for interrupting your afternoon tea, but there seems to be a misunderstanding. Jessica doesn't own this home. My parents don't own this home. I do. Ava, stop it. Mom rushed in from the kitchen, wiping her hands on an apron. Don't do this here, not in front of people. I have to do it here, I said, because you have ignored my calls, my emails, and my legal notices. Since you have refused to vacate voluntarily, I am putting the house on the market, effective immediately. I turned to Brenda. Brenda, the floor is yours. Brenda, bless her shark-like heart, didn't hesitate. She started looking around the room, taking notes loudly. Great natural light, she announced. We will need to stage it differently, of course. Get rid of this dated furniture. We can probably list it for $850. Open house this Sunday? Sunday works, I said. Jessica dropped her champagne glass. It shattered on the hardwood floor. You can't do this, she screamed, the facade finally cracking. This is my house. I live here. You squat here, I corrected. Then Mike stepped forward. Jessica Higgins? He asked. What? She snapped. You have been served. He handed her a thick envelope. restraining order regarding the minor children Leo and Maya Davis, and a notice to vacate for non-payment of rent. He turned to my parents. Martha and Robert Higgins? Same for you? The room was silent enough to hear a pin drop. The wealthy guests were already grabbing their purses. There is nothing rich people hate more than the smell of poverty and legal trouble. One by one, they shuffled toward the door. I think we should go, one woman said, stepping over the broken glass. Jessica, delete my number. Within 3 minutes, the house was empty. Just me, the agent, the process server, and the 3 people who had drained me dry for a decade. Get out, I said. Where are we supposed to go? Dad asked, his voice trembling. He looked old suddenly, defeated. I don't know, I said, but you have equity in your old truck. Maybe you can sleep in that, or maybe Jessica can use her business acumen to rent you a motel room. I walked to the mantel. I picked up the framed photo of Jessica's kids, the angelic ones. I placed it face down. Then I picked up the photo of my children, the one they kept in a drawer. I put it in my bag. You have 7 days to vacate before the sheriff comes to physically remove you, I said. Do not take the appliances, do not take the fixtures. I have a video inventory of everything in this house. If a single light bulb is missing, I will sue you for damages. I turned and walked out. As I reached the door, Mom called out, a weak, broken sound. Ava, we are your family. I stopped. I didn't turn around. No, I said. You were my expense, and I finally balanced the books. I am sitting on the patio of my own home, the real home I share with Marcus. The sun is setting. Leo and Maya are playing in the sprinkler, their laughter ringing in the air like music. The other house sold in 3 days. The market was hot. After paying off the mortgage and the fees, there was about $40,000 left in equity. Legally, it was all mine, but I am not them. I took the check for $40,000 and I mailed it to my parents. With a note, here is your severance package. Don't spend it all in one place. Do not contact us again. It was the last check I ever wrote them. I heard from a cousin that they moved into a 2-bedroom apartment on the other side of town. Jessica had to get a job as a receptionist. Dad is working part-time security. They are miserable. They are cramped. And they blame me for everything. Let them. I took a sip of my wine and looked at Marcus. He smiled and squeezed my hand. You okay? He asked. I'm fantastic, I said, and I meant it. I looked at my bank account app on my phone. Savings, up, stress, down, self-respect, restored. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but looking at my happy children, are eating the prime rib I just grilled for them at the table where they belonged, I realized something. Revenge isn't about hurting the people who hurt you. It's about removing them from your life so completely that you forget they ever existed. It's not just cold, it's peace.